Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Trailblazer Podcast. I'm your host, William Walker, and today we're going to shake things up a little bit, do things a little bit differently. We're going to take a deep dive into the world of leadership and how you can draw inspiration from being on the trail. I know that sounds weird or crazy, but it's not. Life is a journey, and when we look at life as a journey, it's just like being on a trail. It's going to have ups and it's going to have downs. It's going to have obstacles. It's going to take a lot of work to get through it and to continue moving forward. So, metaphorically speaking, trails, we're going to encounter different trails in our careers. And there are valuable leadership lessons that are waiting to be discovered as we continue to navigate life as a whole. Now, I know that some of you may be wondering, what does a trail have to do with leadership? But it really has everything to do with leadership. As an avid trail runner and rucker and backpacker, one of the things that I always find is that there's markers on the trail. And these markers are waypoints for finding your way, for creating a path, marking that path in which direction you're supposed to be going in your leadership journey as a husband, as a father, as a leader, as a son. So the first thing I think we need to talk about is the importance that the pathfinder, the trailblazer plays in this leadership. And that's what this podcast is about trailblazers, men who are just living their life in a little bit of a different way that allows them to be just that, trailblazers, to be pathfinders or path makers. And when we navigate these uncharted territory and make decisions in the face of uncertainty and the set direction, that's what we're doing. Think about it. Every trail begins with someone deciding to explore it. It's just a blank canvas until someone decides to go down. And that's just like in leadership. The ability to blaze a trail, to set a vision, it's crucial. It's one of the most important jobs of being a leader is being able to set a compelling vision that people want to follow. Think about the Appalachian Trail and how compelling that is to so many people about getting on it. Well, some guy had to blaze that trail at one point and take it up the whole East Coast, right? From down here in Alabama all the way up to the Northeast. The next lesson you have to learn, and I think this is a big one in leadership, is resilience. Being on a trail, hiking and trail running, especially a challenging one, requires resilience. There are uphill battles, rocky patches, unexpected twists. You never know what you're going to run into. And the same goes for leadership. It's not always smooth sailing. It's not this flat road that we get to follow with a couple twists and little small twists and turns. You have to be a resilient leader. You have to be able to bounce back from the setbacks. A few years ago, it's funny, bounce back, I was at a conference and they gave out rubber balls, and it was little rubber bouncy balls. It was like, always remember to bounce back. Well, you have to be resilient like that bouncy ball. You have to be resilient when you're going down those trails in life and our leadership journey to keep moving forward, because there's going to be setbacks. There's going to be times when you just want to stop and not keep moving forward, but we have to. And we learn from these failures or these stoppages and these rocks that we have to climb over, but we just keep moving forward. A third lesson I find to be very impactful and important about being on a trail is the teamwork. I do a lot of rucking and a lot of running on trails, but I don't do a lot of it alone. Almost always I have one of my closest friends, Tom, who's with me, and we're always rucking and running on the trails. And it makes it worth going on the journey. I know that I've got someone there to cover my back if something happens, if God forbid I trip over a root and bust my head somewhere. There was one time we were out on a trail and we were running and there was like three of us. And as I was running down this path, a copperhead struck at my foot as I stepped up. And I was able to warn the guys behind me that there was a snake on the trail. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was running by myself. I'd have kept running, but I wouldn't have warned anybody else that would have possibly been out on a trail to get rid of the snake. A successful leader knows how to build a strong team. And when you go through struggles and you're resilient, you build a strong team. You build trust with each other. You're able to start leveraging each member's strengths. And it builds it fosters a camaraderie and collaboration. It's, because it's not just about reaching the end destination. It's about the journey that you're on together, learning, growing. One of the trails I used to take, I used to lead a lot of guys on. Some of the groups I led had some obstacles. And one of the things that I learned was, as we were going through these trails, when you reach certain obstacles, some guys couldn't do them without the help of the other guy. And when one in particular, we had a 6 foot or 8 foot wall that you had to go over. And we had some guys that were really uncertain whether or not they were going to make it over that wall. And when one of their other team members that was out on this trail running with us would stop in front of the wall, get down on his knees, offer to help him over that, like, he now trusted him. He knew that this team member had his back. And so being on a trail and having a team member just makes the journey better. It gives you confidence. It builds a boldness in you to know that you can make it and do it. And just overhaul it. It makes the time on the trail more fun because you're able to experience that with somebody and share the lessons learned from the trail. The fourth lesson I like to pull from the trail, and let me tell you, I could go on for probably hours. I'm not going to tonight, but this is the last one I'm going to share tonight, is the adaptability. You have to be adaptable. Trails are not static. They change with the seasons, weather, time. I mean, I can remember I run some trails fairly regularly, and so I even know where they're at, but when all the leaves drop and the pine needles start dropping, like, you lose that trail sometimes. And so you have to be able to adapt, and maybe sometimes you get off that trail and you end up back on it, Or a tree falls and the tree is so big you can't just run over it. You have to figure out a way around it. So you have to be adaptable to the process. We adjust your strategies to the evolving landscape, pivot when necessary, and embrace change, just like in work, just like in life. I mean, people in our lives change their minds, and we have to be able to adapt sometimes to those changes so that we can keep moving forward, because that's the right thing to do. It's about being flexible without losing sight of the ultimate goal, the end result. Got to keep moving forward. I'm going to get that time in on the trail. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to reach that summit, that peak. When we in October of last year, I went to Kenya and I got to climb a mountain there, Mount Longonot, and it's a dormant volcano. And as you're hiking up, at first you don't realize that you're only hiking up the side of this mountain to get to the rim of the volcano, and then you have to take the rim to get to the peak, the summit. And so you're going up the side, and it's fairly steep, and the ground is really loose, and lots of rocks and cracks, and there's not a whole lot to grab a hold of other than just dirt and grinding it up as you go up the hill. But then you get to this first level, and it's the first edge of the perimeter of this volcano, and then you realize, man, I got a whole another 5 or 6 miles before I even get around to where the peak of this is, which is on the backside, and then I have to make it back around and back down the hill. And so you have to be willing to go, all right, I got more to do. I'm going to be a little more flexible. I'm going to keep moving. And I'm not going to lose sight of the goal of getting up to the top of that mountain and then getting there and the views that you get to see. And there you get to see the Great Rift Valley, which runs from Africa all the way up into Canaan. And it's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. It's definitely a recommendation. And if you're interested, I'm going to be leading a men's leadership retreat there later this year, actually October of this year. So now let's talk about why these lessons matter. The trail isn't just a physical space. It's a metaphor, like I said earlier, for life's journeys. And when we can apply these lessons, we can become better leaders in both our personal and professional lives. We can navigate challenges, we can inspire others, and we can create a path. We can blaze a trail towards success, not just in our lives, but in the lives of others, because it's impactful in how they live and what they do. So let me challenge you with a couple things. First, reflect on your own trail. What path are you on? Where are you leading? Next, what lessons have you learned along the way while you're on this path? And lastly, how can you apply those lessons to enhance your leadership skills, your leadership influence? How do you do that? Well, hey guys, that's it for today. And as your podcast, today's episode of Trailblazer, I hope you found inspiration in the unlikely classroom of the trail. And remember, leadership is not just about reaching the summit. It's about the journey and the lessons learned along the way. So how do you stay on the path? It's how do you maintain that journey? For me, a big part of that are not only who does all my programming for my working out, it's Windmill Fitness, but also Flight Food Supplements, who provides me with all my supplements. They provide my protein, they provide my pre-workout, creatine, as well as Refuel, which is how I rehydrate my body after a good hard workout. And lastly, it's the Forged Leader, who is my coaching and consulting company. We use this as a way to share our leadership lessons with the men that are out there trying to live and lead their lives in a little bit of a different way and becoming the leaders that they're called to be. We ask that you just continue to support us, and if you do, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast and stay tuned for more inspiring stories of men making a difference in the world. And remember, you too can be a trailblazer in your own way. And until next time, keep blazing your trail.